Good afternoon, everyone. Mark Hughes here in Galway, and thank you for attending our Vogelsang live demonstration. I suppose with all the agriculture shows recently cancelled back home here in Ireland, it's great to get an opportunity to safely show everyone what our team have been busy developing for slurry management in the Irish market. So I think without further ado, okay, I'll now hand over to my colleagues, Paul and Hubert in the factory in Essen to give you a rundown of our new products. Take it away, guys.
Hello and welcome to the Vogelsang Technology Update. My own name is Paul. Some of you may recognize me at home from some of the machinery shows and been out in the field. So I'm the agricultural specialist on behalf of Vogelsang Ireland. And to keep things authentic, I have my German colleague here today with me, Hubert.
Thank you, Paul. Hello all, good afternoon to Ireland. A very warm welcome to the showroom of Vogelsang here in Essen, Germany. Thanks for the Irish team for joining us here. Paul will guide us through a couple of new products that should be available in the course of 22 for the slurry market. A lot of that will be brand new, and it's the first time we're showing that. We hope you have an interesting time together with us. Please make use of the chat room for your questions. And now the show is Paul's. Paul, what is the first product we're going to?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Hubert. Yeah, so the first product we're going to show you is the Vogelsang PowerFill family. So that's our range of turbo fillers.
Okay, let's move there.
Perfect. Okay, so here we have the Vogelsang Power Filler. So some of you may be already familiar with this machine back home in Ireland. So traditionally it comes in both the 6 and 8 inch inlet feed. So yeah, based on the feedback we've had in the marketplace across Europe, we see the tankers getting bigger. So you have more of the tandem tankers. You typically have more specification or a higher specification on the tankers, which again you would see back at home. And more people are looking at the option of putting on a loading arm to fill their tanker system with. So based on that feedback, we had, I suppose, a demand in the marketplace for a more compact and lighter version of the 8-inch power fill. So now, without further ado, I'd like to show you the all-new PowerFill S, which comes in the 8-inch inlet option, which is very much suited to your fill arm. So I suppose the first thing you'll notice is just how compact this machine is. It only measures 500 millimeters by 460 millimeters in width. It's around 40% lighter than the unit we were just looking at in the 8-inch option. So it weighs just 53 kilos as opposed to 90 with the traditional PowerFill system. But I can assure you, for a small little unit, it packs a punch. You're getting pretty similar flow rates to the PowerFill we just seen on the screen a minute ago. So if you want to just have a closer look inside the machine, as on the existing PowerFill, you have a rotor with 3 wings, and that's what basically does your pumping on the PowerFill system. Also, a thing to note, on the traditional PowerFill, you had both a left-hand and a right-hand option. So if you were fitting a PowerFill to assist with speeding up or to reduce the fill time of your traditional vacuum tanker, you would have to figure out if you were going to mount the PowerFill on the left-hand side of your tanker or on the right-hand side of the tanker. So we've alleviated that issue with the PowerFill S, so there's no longer 2 different part numbers for a left or a right-hand version. We've cleverly designed, you see this flange here, so you can undo them 5 bolts, whip off the flange with your motor and your seal pack, and you can place it on the opposite side of the PowerFill. So now you only have 1 single part number for both your left-hand and right-hand PowerFill options. So again, it's just kind of a neat little design on the PowerFill S. Just while we're in here as well, on all 8-inch PowerFills, whether it's a traditional PowerFill or indeed the PowerFill S, we have an option now for this piston pump. So this is a high-pressure piston pump made by a company called Sunfab, shall we say. And this particular motor drive will power the rotor or rotate it at up to 1,000 RPM. So that would typically have a hydraulic flow requirement of 100 liters per minute. That's on real high flow capacities. Now, typically in the Irish market, you'd be more familiar with our standard OMS 100 hydraulic motor, which again comes as standard on the PowerFill S and on the traditional PowerFill. Typically, you would rotate that, it'd be operating at around 700 RPM, and that requires around 70 liters a minute of hydraulic flow rate. So, as with all our products, you can customize it to suit your particular application needs. So yeah, that's pretty much it with the all-new PowerFill. So yeah, a hell of a lot lighter, more compact, neater unit, so it fits on the lights of your fill arm quite easily. Also, you may ask, where would you typically use a PowerFill? So the first application we typically use them on is to assist or to reduce the fill time of your tanker. So you can reduce the fill time by up to 30% by using this system in conjunction with your traditional vacuum pump on board your slurry tanker. Also, what we find when you go to a bigger applicator, so when you go to a bigger type dribble bar or trailing shoe, when I say bigger, I mean 12 meters plus, it's important that you have enough of flow and pressure of slurry from the back of your tanker to fill the dribble bar or the shoe. So you can actually fit a PowerFill between the outlet of your slurry tanker and the inlet into the dribble bar or shoe. So can be done with the existing PowerFill, but this system would be neater and tidier to fit in between the tanker and the dribble bar itself. So again, there's different options there available, and that's pretty much it from the PowerFill family.
Paul, if I want to make use of the big motor,
yes,
and have the advantage of filling up 1/3 quicker, can I operate that with my standard equipment, tractor and tanker?
Yeah, so the high pressure piston hydraulic motor, you would need a tractor that would be capable of knocking out 250 bar in terms of hydraulic pressure. So you're not going to see many tractors at home in Ireland, or traditional tractors, that would be capable of having that hydraulic pressure. So on some of the tractors, you may need your external hydraulic power source to give you enough pressure to achieve that 250 bar. So as you rightfully said, Hubert, with this hydraulic motor option, you'll get 30% more capacity on the pump. So typically on the 8-inch PowerFill, you're getting somewhere in the region between 4,000 and 8,000 liters per minute of flow.
It's a straightforward product. Mark, do we have any questions in the chat?
Yes, we have some questions coming in the chat. So, Paul, is there one drive motor for the new PowerFill S, or are there options for drive motors?
Yeah, so at standard, it comes with the OMS motor, the OMS 100, which is what we would now currently offer on the existing PowerFill, and that requires around 70 liters a minute, achieving 700 RPM of the rotor. So that would be your standard offering on the PowerFill S, and then, of course, as we touched on, you have the high pressure piston motor as well, if you need higher pressure and higher capacity. There is that option there, but again, it's an add-on.
Okay, you may already have answered this question, but what is the required hydraulic flow on the standard motor for the new attached to the new PowerFill S?
Yeah, you'd be talking in the region of 70 liters a minute for the PowerFill S.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And the third question, what is the capacity of the smaller PowerFill S?
Yeah, as I said, the existing PowerFill 8-inch is in the region of 4,000 to 8,000 liters per minute, and you're getting very similar capacity on the new PowerFill S as well. Even though you have quite a, it's quite a compact unit, but it still packs a punch. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's move forward a little bit to bench spreading here.
Okay.
Some new products. Let's move in front of that, and you introduce us to the Vogelsang Unispread.
Perfect. Thanks, Hubert. Okay, so now I'd like to introduce to you to the Vogelsang Unispread applicator. So as the name suggests, it's a fully universal solution. So we have a show model here behind us, and half of the boom has a trailing shoe and the other half has a dribble bar. So first you'll see the trailing shoe attachment just behind me, and then on the opposite side of the boom you'll see the dribble bar version on the end. Yep. So all the hose pipes, it doesn't matter which system you go for, the dribble bar or the trailing shoe, they're spaced at 250 mil between the center of one hose and the center of the next, which is pretty standard back home in Ireland. Now, just to take a closer look at the shoe option. So we'll have a look at the design of the shoe. So the first thing you'll notice is that we have a solid cast iron coulter, which you see here. And that then is attached to a leaf spring in red, which I'll show you on the system in a minute. So in terms of if you wanted to swap out or replace the coulter in time when it's maybe worn out, it's quick and easy to do. You just have two M8 stainless steel bolts here. So you slacken them off, and then your cast iron piece just slots out, and you can easily interchange it on the machine, again reducing downtime in the field. Also worth pointing out is we've done a lot of flow simulations on the actual rubber boot itself, as you'll see by the shape of it. So what effectively we're trying to ensure is that across the full opening of the shoe, you have full slurry coming out of the outlet itself. So you're completely filling the outlet, and again, that aids the even distribution of the slurry when it comes out in the field. So that's just a cutaway of the trailing shoe itself. Now let's have a little bit of a closer look at it in the field. So your shoe, which I've just showed you, it's connected to the red guy here, which is just a traditional leaf spring. And that's effectively what gives you your 6 kgs of pressure on the shoe in the field. So each one of the shoes here, you're going to have an active pressure of 6 kgs. The leaf spring is then attached to an 80 by 80 box section, which is galvanized, and that forms your end arm of the system itself. An important requirement in Ireland is that, we'll say a typical 7.5 meter system, which is what we have here in front of you today, is that it comes with the brake back protection, which you will see on this end of the machine. So if we just look a little bit closer here, you can see you have your hinge point here, and there's also at the back you have a shear bolt. You mightn't just see it on the camera there, but in the event of hitting something, hitting the end section of the side arm, it will break back, and you're not going to do any damage to the rest of the end arms or to the main frame or indeed to the slurry tanker, which is always reassuring. Now, looking a little bit closer, you'll see here we have the hose pipe. So it's a high quality, durable hose pipe, UV resistant. Again, an important requirement in Ireland because the weather conditions are always challenging. So a good heavy duty, long lasting hose pipe on the system. You'll see there's quite a neat arrangement of the hose pipes on either the dribble bar or the shoe configuration. Now we've looked at the hose pipes. Moving along, I would just like to show you the hinging points. So you'll see on your hinge point, you have a large bolt and nut. Inside here, you have bushings, and then you have 2 greasing points on either side of the system. So again, that's just ensuring you're getting the maximum life out of your dribble bar or trailing shoe. Okay, now let's move in and talk about the engine behind the machine, the Xsplit distributor head. So this machine comes with 2 options. You can get it fitted with the Xsplit ECL or the Xsplit ECQ. I'm sure you're all familiar with both options in terms of the Irish market. You see them on various different Irish dribble bars, trailing shoes, and indeed umbilical systems. So this particular machine here, it's an ECQ 3040, which means it has 30 outlets, 15 on either side, and it's a 40 mil hose pipe, okay? As you'll see in this system, it's fed through the top, so this makes it an easy option in terms of retrofitting. So slurry comes in through the top, completely fills the chamber of slurry, and then on the bottom then you have your lay flat hose, which is effectively a stone trap. So heavier objects inside in the housing are gravity fed down into your lay flat hose. And as we know back home, you're going to have stones inside in your slurry. So it's always vitally important that your operator keeps this empty and that they have quick and easy access to this in the field. So on the Vogelsang systems, we just use a simple latch, quick and easy to get at. So now you can see your operator can easily clear it out in the field with ease. So now we'll just pop that back in there. So yeah, simple and easy on the latch mechanism. In terms of the few new features that are on the Xsplit ECQ, so just to give you a bit of background information, this machine, the ECQ, we would have unveiled at Agritechnica when we could do Agritechnica back in 2019. So the main kind of points on the ECQ is that the first thing you'll notice is that the housing is quite big. So we've increased the size of the housing, gives you a higher capacity. Also, it ensures that we have this larger maintenance port. So just by removing your 4 bolts, you have much better access in terms of looking into the machine from inspection. And also, we've reconfigured the internals so that when you're changing out the wear parts, your rotor now comes out through the widened service hatch. And the majority of distributor heads, or macerators as some guys like to refer to them back home, you have to take off the in plate on the system to service it. So with this machine, you don't. All comes through the back here. So nice, quick and easy, and minimizing downtime in the field. On the blade as well, it's a triangular shaped blade, so it now has 3 cutting edges. The idea of that is that for every rotation, you're getting an extra cut, so you're effectively running the rotor at a lower RPM. So you're reducing your hydraulic flow requirement on the ECQ to just 35 liters a minute. And you're also making the service, or you're also extending the service life on the machine because you have less RPM of the blade rotating up against the cutting screen. So that will, again, extend your wear life on the wear components on the ECQ itself. Look, that's enough, I think, on the Xsplit ECQ. As I said, there is an option for the ECL machine is there. So it is fully customizable to the customer requirements. Now you've seen the front of the machine, let's move around the back and show you just how easy it is to mount to a new or existing slurry tanker. So the machine in front of us is the 7.5. It also comes in a 6 meter, a 9 meter, and the latest new product we have is the 10.5 meter. So just to bear that in mind, we do cover all options there on the Unispread. Now we're at the back of the system. You'll notice it's a category 3 mainframe. In terms of your mounting options, you've got both 4-point linkage and 3-point linkage. So first of all, I'll show you the 2 top links. So you see one here, and then you have one on the opposite side. Just while we're looking at the top links, you'll see that they're fully adjustable. So you have your U-bolt design. So from the likes of a retrofit perspective, if you're fitting this onto your existing slurry tanker, if you haven't welded on the brackets just perfectly, you have a little bit of room there to adjust the U-bolts so that it aligns up perfectly. So it's always nice just to have that bit of comfort when you are mounting the brackets on the machine. Then on the bottom, you'll see the 2 other links there. So that completes the 4-point linkage configuration. And also, there is an option on all Unispreads to have the 3-point linkage, which you'll see there on the camera as we speak. So yeah, lots of options and flexibility from a mounting perspective. Now I'd just like to talk a little bit about the hydraulic requirements. So if you get the Unispread with the hydraulic sequence controller, you'll only require 2 double-acting spool valves. So one is to power your Xsplit distributor head, and then the other one is to do your lifting and folding all in one sequence. So again, just 2 double-acting spool valves. Now, there's also an option with all Unispreads to get the Vogelsang control system. So that comprises of a little controller inside in the cab of your tractor, which has toggle switches on it, so quick and easy operation for the end user. This control system then marries up with a hydraulic block on your tanker, and it only requires one double-acting spool to do all the functions on your applicator, and it also controls the opening and closing of the gate valve which supplies the liquid or supplies the slurry feed from the back of your tanker to the Xsplit itself. So yeah, there is different options available there on the Unispread. You can also get it with a splash plate add-on as well. So yeah, we can discuss individual requirements on a case-by-case basis. One other thing just to mention that's important is when you're transporting the machine, it folds down to just 2.5 meters, including and up to the 10.5 meter. So you will see here we have the holding and security device, which is a hydraulic latch mechanism. We'll now just follow the black hydraulic hose pipe down from the hinge itself, or from the locking device, shall we say. And this connects up to your hydraulic accumulator, little black bottle here. And effectively, when you're trying to unfold the system, you're initially just pressurizing the hydraulics a little bit, and that will fill up this accumulator with hydraulic oil for a number of seconds, and that will then allow time for your hydraulic latch to unlatch, and then you can drop down your side arms into the working position. So just to note, on the bigger systems, the 9 meter and the 10.5, we have a double fold option, so that, again, they're all folding down into a nice, neat 2.5 meter transport width, which is definitely important on some of the roads we see in Ireland. So yeah, the Unispread covers a whole host of different options on that side of things. So now I would just like to do a quick summary of the machine itself. Okay, so as I said, it's a fully universal solution. You can get it in the dribble bar or the trailing shoe. Comes in 6, 7.5, 9, and 10.5 meter options. Folds down to just over 2.5 meters. In terms of hydraulic, with the sequence controller, it only requires 2 double-acting spools. There's also the option then to get the Vogelsang control system, which is a good option in my opinion. Strong, sturdy, robust design, ideal for Irish farmers and contractors. And of course, you're all familiar with the tried and tested Xsplit, whether it's the ECL or the ECQ option you do indeed decide to go with. So yeah, that's it on the Unispread.
Paul, you mentioned that this may be ideal for the Irish farmer. Mm-hmm. Irish tankers have their specifics.
Yep.
How easy is it to retrofit really on an Irish-style tanker? Let's say it has no extra linkage.
Yeah, I suppose the feedback from the marketplace we were getting when we were developing the Unispread is that, in particular, the Irish farmers and contractors wanted a proper chassis-mounted solution. So with the Unispread, you can weld on your brackets. And then it said if they don't exactly line up with regards to the 4-point linkage, you can move the U-bolts, so you can align it up. You have that margin for error there. And of course, if you want, on some of the existing tankers, they may already be partially set up to take a 3-point linkage from a retrofit perspective.
Okay.
So again, if we have a particular customer on here, we can send them on the system requirements or the drawing, and they can marry it up to their existing tanker.
Good. Thank you. Mark, we have questions in the chat?
Yes, we have some questions coming into the chat function on the right-hand side of the screen. So if anyone else wants to add some questions, now is your time to do it in relation to the Unispread. But again, going back to Irish requirements, what would be the hydraulic flow requirements for the complete system?
Yeah, so starting on the Xsplit, it'd be 35 litres a minute with the ECQ, which is on the show model. With the traditional ECL, you'd be looking at 50 litres a minute. And then if you were to add on then your sequence controller, that would require another 25 litres a minute to do the lifting and folding sequence on the system itself. So all in all, you're talking 75 litres a minute if you're using the ECL, or 60 if you're using the ECQ.
Okay, thank you. And the second question, the unit behind you is a 7.5 meter. So in relation to the 10.5 meter, is there any difference in the transport dimensions?
Yeah, so again, they're both just over 2.5 meter. On this machine here, it's just a single fold, whereas on the new 9 meter and the new 10.5 meter, it's a double fold. So the first part of the fold is done hydraulically with rams, and then the second part is done mechanically. We have a pull arm system on the side arms itself, and that works pretty well. It's a nice, simple system for the Irish market in particular and across Europe, yeah.
Okay, and the final question, what working widths are available in the Unispread in addition to what you've spoken about, the 10.5 and the 7.5?
Yeah, so you have also the 6 and the 7.5, the 9 and the 10.5 options in both dribble bar and trailing shoe.
And when are they available in Ireland?
Yeah, so currently you can get all of the systems bar the 10.5. The 10.5 will be available in early to mid 2022. Yeah, so more on the early side. So yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay. Further questions, we can still come back to that later if you have them. Don't hesitate. We heard a little bit about distributor heads.
Yes.
We'll continue with that and show you a complete new distributor head.
Yep.
Let's go ahead.
Perfect. Thanks, Hubert. So now you'll move on to the product we'll be best known for in the Irish market, the Xsplit. So as you're all familiar, you would often have seen the Xsplit ECL and also the ECQ on a large number of slurry tankers and umbilical systems back home. This machine that stands in front of me today is in addition to the ECL and the ECQ. It's called the Xsplit ECC. So the main point on this machine is that you no longer require air breather pipes. So a little bit different to what else you've seen on the market, whereas your traditional distributor head or macerator, as some of the guys refer to it at home, all the systems out there require your air breather pipes. So just to give you a little bit of background as to why there was a need for this system. So some of the European countries, for example, the Netherlands, there is a requirement that you have to spread your slurry with injection systems. So they can no longer spread with your dribble bar or indeed even your trailing shoe applicator. So with these injection systems in the likes of Holland, the operators are constantly turning on and off the slurry outlets just to, I suppose, adjust the working widths of the injection systems themselves. So if you're constantly turning off a number of the slurry outlets, you're going to cause a back pressure inside in the distributor head itself. So what that does is, what you will see in the machine is the slurry has nowhere else to go, only to be relieved out through your air breather pipes. So typically what you may see is a little dribble of slurry coming out through your breather pipes when they were used in conjunction with injection systems. So this is not always acceptable from an end user perspective. In the Netherlands, they want the slurry to be injected fully into the roots of the soil. They don't want to see any surface or any slurry on the surface of the grass at all. So hence there was a need for a distributor in the marketplace that didn't require any air breathers itself. So on this system, first thing you will notice is that it's the same housing as the ECQ I showed you just a minute ago on the Unispread. So we've kept the housing the same. What you will notice is that the rotor design is different. So you will see we've reconfigured the rotor. So we have a new blade holder, and we've also 3 blades on each side of the rotor. So here you will see you have quite a thin blade that's held to the blade holder with the spring pin. So that gives it a little bit of flexibility there, as you will see. So 3 on either side of the rotor. Also, we've reconfigured the outlets on the cutting screen. So what you're trying to do is optimize the amount of pressure inside in the distributor. As I said, it's now more of a pressurized system, so you want to achieve a little bit higher of pressure than you would on your traditional Xcut distributor. So just to note, as I said, the blades are quite thin, so when they pass the holes, they're never fully blocking them off. So on your traditional Xcut distributor, maybe 50% of the holes are completely covered at any one moment in time, whereas on this machine, there's always openings on the slurry outlets. So that lets your air come back into the distributor itself to aid the even flow of slurry from the housing itself. As with all the Xcut distributor heads, we have our unique eccentric adjuster. So, in other words, we refer to it as a spring-loaded cam mechanism. So you'll see the eccentric shape of the cam, and what that effectively is doing is that as your wear parts, in this case your blade and your cutting screen, are wearing down and getting thinner, that eccentric shape cam is always ensuring that you have a constant cutting force between the blade and screen, ensuring you have optimum cutting performance in the field. These adjusters as well are the same as what we have on the ECQ. So you'll notice we have integrated a latch mechanism so that if you want to service the machine in the field, you just need a simple 5mm Allen key, pop it in the slot here, and then you can wind back your eccentric adjuster, and it will latch in the latch position or in the service position. So it makes it quick and easier to service. So you'll see all the features and benefits of the ECQ are pretty much transferred over to the ECC. It's just we've adapted the rotor, a new blade and cutting screen arrangement, and of course you don't have the air breathers on there as well. So yeah. This particular system, as I said, it is aimed at slurry injection systems. We've tested it across Europe, including some trials back home in Ireland, and yeah, that's pretty much it on the Xcut ECC machine.
That could be confusing for some of the listeners. We've been telling people for years how important the breathers are and that we need to balance out pressure with the air coming in.
Yes.
And now we're presenting a system that has no breathers at all.
Correct, yep.
Where would you see the ideal application? And
Yep, so as we said, it is developed for injection systems. So in areas like the Netherlands where they have these tough slurry spreading restrictions, they don't want any dribble of slurry coming out the air breathers. They don't want any slurry on the surface of the grass. So that's initially the market for the ECC. But we are doing additional tests to see how the system works in Ireland. And as always, we'll keep our customers updated on the progress of that and see how it performs on Irish slurry.
when can we expect more information on it?
Again, we've tested it last season, and then we're testing it again once the slurry ban lifts again after Christmas back home. And yeah, we'll be doing frequent visits, looking at the wear on the machine, the slurry distribution, and various different things. So yeah, we just want to have it fully tested before we bring it to the marketplace.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mark, anything from the chat?
Yes, some interest from the chat again. Just in relation to the blades. The blades there's a comment that they're quite small. So what would be the wear life on the blades and screens?
Yeah, again, so from, as I said, it's still in testing stage. So you're not, based on what we've seen so far, you would have better wear, or sorry, you'd have less wear on the three-sided blade design on the Xcut ECQ. But we have used this blade technology. Well, Vogelsang has used this blade technology on our rotocut macerators, which we use in industrial applications such as wastewater, biogas, and slaughterhouses. So we are familiar with, I suppose, how the system wears and the cutting performance. But again, we're still, in terms of an Irish context, we're still in trial stage with this particular distributor head. So Time will test, but from what we have seen in the tests we have done so far is that because you have the spring pin, you do get a nice marrying of the blade to the screen, and you are getting a nice even wear between the cutting components. So.
Okay, thank you. And is it difficult to service this distributor and change the wear parts out?
Yeah, so it follows on from the quick service concept on the ECQ. So the same housing, same large maintenance port. So we've kind of, the internals are a little bit reconfigured from some of the other, like the ECL that you will be fairly familiar with back home. So now you can actually remove the rotor, as I said earlier, on the Unispread, through the widened service hatch, and then you have access to change out your 3 blades on either side. So it's simply a spring pin, so just knock it out with a punch and a hammer, and then you can easily swap out your 3 blades on either side of the machine. As per the ECQ, the cutting rings are just sat in on, or they sit in on grooves in the housing segments itself, so they're not bolted on with studs or anything like that. So once you pull out the rotor, there's no spring pressure there between the blade and the screen. You can just simply pull out your cutting rings on either side. They're not bolted in place or held on with studs. So again, quick and easy to change out the wear parts on this machine. So yeah, you don't have to remove off the in plate like you do on other distributors you'd see in the marketplace. So yeah.
Okay, so everything is through the service hatch, the same as the ECQ.
Yeah.
Going back to the Unispread, we had one question, and I think it's relevant for where you are now. And it was an attendee wanted to know if they could get a better view of the inside of the distributor. So I think that's an ECQ behind you, is it?
Yeah, that's an ECQ behind us.
Is it possible just to get a quick look at the inside of that and just a quick description of the component parts?
Yep, so this particular one we have here is a side inlet. The one on the ECQ has a top inlet, which makes it a little bit easier to fit from a retrofit if you're fitting it to an existing tanker perspective. But yeah, here we have the ECQ. So on the ECQ, you have 3 different options on the inlet, on the side inlet. So you'll see we've bolted on the flange inlet. You can change this to a 4, 5, or 6-inch inlet. So as standard, it comes with the 5-inch inlet, but if you wanted to get a bit more slurry through the machine, you can easily unbolt the flange and pop on a DN150 6-inch inlet. Here you'll see the 3-sided blade we were talking about on the Unispread. So it's a little bit different to the 2-sided blade you'd see on the ECL. So for every rotation, you're getting that extra cut, gives a nice smooth cutting action. There are your eccentric adjusters with the quick service latch mechanism. So again, a 5mm hex or 5mm Allen key, and you can rotate a quarter of a rotation, and then you have your cams in the service position, so you no longer have pressure or force between your blade and your screen. Then in terms of how this is all connected to your hydraulic motor, on the opposite side here, you'll see, just if we come around, you'll see your rotor adapter. So you'll see in your spline connection, and that's physically what connects to your motor drive. And that's what basically rotates the machine. And then we can also have a quick look at the way the cutting screen configuration is inside of the machine itself. Had you any more particular questions on the ECQ, Mark, or?
No, a video paints 1,000 words, really, Paul, and that's brilliant.
Oh yeah, we're getting some focus on it there.
Allow the customer to see some imagery of the inside and the workings of it. That's perfect.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
And we have one more new machine to show you that's more related to biogas and farm technology.
Yes.
A bit away from the spreading. Let's go there over. It's here and have a look what it looks like and what it can do for you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Hubert. So now I'm going to introduce you to a first for Vogelsang. So we noticed in the marketplace, in both terms of agriculture and biogas, that there was demand for a separator system. So some of you may or may not know that Vogelsang do a lot of equipment in the AD world or in biogas plants. So we do everything from pump, macerators, grinders, to complete feeding systems or premix system. Anyway, that's for a different day, but we have a lot of experience both in the agricultural world and in the biogas world. So now I would like to introduce to you the all-new Vogelsang Xsplit, our new separator system. So first of all, I would just like to start at the end of the machine. So as with all Vogelsang machines, we try and make them relatively quick and easy to service, especially in the field, to reduce downtime. Here you'll see a large maintenance port giving you quick and easy access into the internal components of the machine, i.e. your screw and your screen. So you'll simply remove off the 4 bolts on the top, 4 on the bottom, grab the 2 handles, and your operator then can just leave the cover to one side, and that will give you access in to either inspect or to do servicing on the machine. On top here, you'll see your inlet supply into the machine itself. So in terms of agricultural application, your slurry would go in here on the top into the inlet. Now let's move around and have a look at the internals in the machine. So yeah, I guess Vogelsang, we didn't try to reinvent the wheel. We've based this system on the tried and tested screw press method. So what we've done is we've tweaked it, we've made a few additions, and have a few unique selling points on the machine, which we believe will be definitely beneficial to the operator in the field. So just to start here, you see you have your housing for the screen. So that comes in 3 different chambers. So you have the first segment, second segment, and the third segment. So from a servicing perspective, you don't have to change that complete screen. You can just replace one individual screen, which makes it a bit easier from a maintenance perspective. In terms of the screen options then, we have 3 different options. The first one here has a 1 millimeter passage. The second one then has a 2 millimeter, and as you probably guessed, the third one, it has a 3 millimeter free passage on the end. So what that regulates is the fiber length on the liquid discharge on the machine itself. So we can customize it to meet the customer requirements. Okay, so now you might ask, what's different about the Xsplit versus what's on the market already? So the research and development team here in Germany has done a lot of work, a lot of tests on the machine, looked what was in the marketplace, and have developed a few additional features, which I will now show you here. Sorry, just cross over. The first thing I would like to show to you, it's unique, is this rubber disc. So that's what forms the plug on this separator machine. So on startup, you've practically 0 spillage or 0 leakage with that rubber disc design. That rubber disc is also customizable. So we have currently 3 different thickness options. So we have the smaller guy, medium guy, and then we have your heavier plug. So the idea of that is that the thicker the plug you go, the higher the dry matter content can be on the discharge. So in terms of the dry matter content, we can adjust that by, as I said, having a custom plug, so having a different thickness on the plug, or we can also move the position of the auger screw, which is in behind the screen housing. So you can, just by following me around to the end here, so we have a safety cover on it at the minute, but you have, just using an Allen key, remove your 2 bolts, one on the top, one on the bottom. If you whip off this little safety cover, we'll be able to get in then, and you have like a big screw design. So you can go clockwise or anti-clockwise, and that then regulates the position of the auger inside in the screen. So that varies the dry matter content of your output from the machine itself. So that, in conjunction with the thickness of the rubber discs, is how you adopt the dry matter content. So on this particular machine, we can have dry matter up to 40%. In terms of capacity, it handles up to 45 meters cubed an hour, but that all depends on the desired dry matter content. Just in terms of what's different on the machine, looking at what was in the marketplace, you typically have, on most machines, a mechanical seal or a mechanical seal cartridge. So that's typically because your wetted chamber is beside your electric motor drive. Whereas on the separator, you'll see it's completely separate. So here's your wetted chamber, here is your electric motor drive, and then it's all kept separate from the wetted chamber. So then you have no need to have a mechanical seal or mechanical seal cartridge on this machine, because what we found is it can be a failing point on existing machines. So this will reduce your downtime and reduce the overall running costs of your separator. Next thing I'd like to talk about is the options on the electric motor drive. So you have a 4 kilowatt or a 7.5 kilowatt machine. As standard, they come with your VFD, which is your variable frequency drive, because you want to regulate the RPM of the rotor as well. In terms of looking at an overall system configuration, so typically you would have 2 pumps, one pump to supply the feed into the machine, so to fill the inlet, and then you'd have another pump to pump out the discharge. So typically we found that the Vogelsang rotary lobe pumps work quite well on this application, because we can put on pressure sensors. We can also fit VFDs to the rotary lobe pumps, and we can actually get them all to work in harmony with the separator in conjunction with the control system. So yeah, basically we can provide just the separator unit, or we can provide the separator unit in conjunction with a number of suitable pumps, controls that everything is talking to the separator for optimum performance. So yeah, that's pretty much all, Hubert, on the Xsplit.
That's a lot. You're talking about 3 segments here. You're talking about 3 different filter widths.
Yep.
And you're talking about 3 different diameters. If I were a farmer on an Irish dairy farm and I want to do bedding,
yep,
what do I do?
Yeah, it's a good question. Sometimes, yeah, lots of different options, but yeah, you can customize it to your requirements. So what we find from a bedding perspective is that you want your dry matter somewhere in the region of 30 to 35%. So I would suggest going with the medium rubber disc. And then I would also, before I start up the machine, I would adjust the position of the auger screw by adjusting the system on the end of the machine. And then to ensure that I still have a high throughput or high capacity on the machine, I would probably go for the 3 millimeter free passage on the screen. And that will ensure we have a good throughput on the liquid discharge.
Okay, understood. If I take this one, what happens?
Yeah, so they regulate the length of the fiber on the liquid discharge. So the smaller the free passage, you're going to reduce the throughput or capacity of the machine itself.
Good. Mark, anything going on in the chat?
Yes, we've got some direct interest already. First question, when is the separator available in Ireland?
Yeah, so you're looking at the second half of 2022.
Okay. And another question, what is the output? What is the price? So what is the output? I think you've touched on that already, but just for clarification.
Yeah, so max output would be 45 meters cubed an hour.
Okay, okay, perfect. And what are the different screen sizes designed for? Maybe that customer has already got clarification on that, but can you just give a quick overview of the different screen sizes again that are in front of the separator? Yep,
so you have the 1, 2, or 3 millimeter options. So that refers to the free passage. So The bigger the opening, the longer the fiber length is going to be on the liquid discharge of the unit. And that will also play an influence in the overall throughput or capacity of the machine. So the bigger the free passage, so the bigger the opening there on the screen, the higher the higher capacity you have or throughput on this unit. The smaller, you're going to reduce it somewhat. So if that particular customer has needs, as with all Vogelsang products, we can size and specify a unit to best fit their application.
Okay. And another question just on the drive system. Have you a mobile tractor-driven option, or will there be a mobile tractor-driven option?
Good question.
Hubert?
At the moment, not, but could well be. We're just in the rollout for the development phase. Currently, we're developing further options for the future, and I'm pretty sure that in 3-4 months' time, we come back with better, more sufficient information on it.
Perfect. Okay. And a question on servicing. How do you remove the auger or the screw? And is it easy to change the rubber disc on the other side?
Yeah, no problem. I can just whip over to where we started on the inlet side. So firstly, I'd remove the 8 nuts, pop off the service port cover. Then on the auger inside, if you can imagine, effectively what you're looking at is you have a big nut on the end. So loosen that off with a wrench, and then that allows me then to move out the auger screw. So I could take it out, do whatever I wanted to do with it. And then just to lead on to your second question, Mark, if I wanted to change the disc, I would, again, remove the cover, remove the big nut, and pull out the auger ever so slightly, and then I have enough room inside or enough travel that I can swap out the rubber disc. So if I take it out maybe 100, 150 mil, I have enough room then to get in to swap out or change that rubber disc from a servicing perspective.
Okay, thank you. That's everything from Ireland. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Let's move back to where we started.
Perfect.
We're coming to the end of our session.
Yes.
Thanks for presenting all this. I know it's a lot of effort you spend it. Thanks for that, and also thanks to all the team behind the scenes, the camera, the dashboard, operating that. Thank you all for listening. We hope you found it interesting what we presented.
Yep. Yeah, so thanks very much for all your attendance at home and for the interaction. It's always good to have some questions. It makes the whole event that bit more interactive. Just while I have you there, if you want to know some more information on the products, you can feel free to contact us. You'll have our details on the webinar there. You can also visit the website at vogelsang.info, or some of you might be a bit more familiar or use Facebook more frequently. So if you check out at Vogelsang Ireland, you will see we put up daily content there on our latest machinery, different machines working in the field. So you'll see all the latest innovations from Vogelsang on there. One final thing is at the end of the presentation, we'll ask just for some feedback. So if you wouldn't mind just spending a minute or two just telling us what you liked on the webinar, it'll be just good feedback for when we do this next year, maybe. So hopefully we'll have the machinery shows back then, but yeah, who knows? So yeah, thanks very much for all your time and attention. It's much appreciated.
Thank you all.
Perfect.
Goodbye.
Super. Thanks.